Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about an event that has shaken the entire world. An attack that has left Russia stunned, confused, and humiliated in front of the global stage. A strike so sudden and so destructive that even Moscow, with all its power and propaganda, couldn't hide how deeply it cut into the image they built for years. The destruction of one of Russia's most prized symbols wasn't just a physical blow. It was a psychological earthquake that exposed vulnerabilities the Kremlin never wanted the world to see. When this happened, the first reaction across the globe was shock. News outlets scrambled to understand how such a powerful structure, backed by Russia's pride and military prestige, could be destroyed in an instant. Analysts started breaking down the footage frame by frame, trying to figure out if it was a missile, a drone, an internal failure, or a daring strike carried out with precision. But no matter what theories spread, one fact remained. Russia was exposed and the world was watching. For Russia, this wasn't just an attack on infrastructure, it was an attack on identity. They had spent years presenting this structure as proof of their strength, control, and dominance. It represented political power, regional influence, and a message to both allies and enemies that Russia was unshakable. But in a single moment, that message collapsed. The destruction became a global headline and instantly turned into a symbol of Russia's weakness rather than power. The Kremlin's worst nightmare wasn't the attack itself, it was the humiliation that followed. People across Europe, Asia, and beyond started questioning how such a heavily guarded and strategically important asset could be vulnerable to an attack this precise. Experts began highlighting the growing cracks in Russia's defenses. They pointed out how months of conflict had stretched Russian resources thin, and how morale within certain units had been declining. The attack didn't just destroy a structure. It shattered the illusion of invincibility that Russia had worked so hard to maintain. Inside Russia, the reaction was chaotic. Officials rushed to release statements, but their narratives kept shifting. First they denied, then they minimized, then they tried to shift blame. But the images were everywhere: massive flames lighting up the sky, smoke rising like a dark cloud, and broken pieces of the mighty structure sinking into the water below. Russian citizens, who had been told repeatedly that the nation was fully in control, started asking questions they weren't supposed to ask. And for the first time in years, silence from the Kremlin sounded louder than their words. International reactions came swiftly. Ukraine's allies saw this as a major turning point. Military strategists called it a significant blow to Russia's logistical and symbolic strength. Some described it as the most humiliating moment for Moscow since the beginning of the conflict. Others said it would force Russia to rethink its strategies entirely. For a nation that relied on fear, power, and intimidation, this attack dented its posture worldwide. The timing of the attack was also stunning. It happened when Russian forces were already struggling on multiple fronts. Supplies were slowing, morale was dipping, and political tensions were rising. The attack made everything worse. It disrupted transport, shook command chains, and exposed gaps in Russia's intelligence. Even some pro-Russian commentators admitted publicly that this was a disaster, an embarrassment they couldn't spin away. What made the situation even more painful for the Kremlin was the symbolism behind the structure. It wasn't just concrete, it was a statement. A message saying Russia is here and Russia is strong. That message is now buried under rubble, and the world is still discussing how something so important could be destroyed so quickly. The speed and precision of the strike left even neutral countries surprised. Every major news agency ran the story as breaking news, with analysts saying this attack would have consequences that stretch far into the future. For Russia, recovering from this isn't just about rebuilding. It's about trying to regain the respect and fear they once enjoyed. But that won't be easy. The footage of the destruction will keep resurfacing every time Russia claims strength. The world has seen the vulnerability with its own eyes, and that alone has changed the geopolitical atmosphere. Russia now appears defensive, reactive, and unsure. Their confidence has taken a massive hit, and rebuilding that confidence will take far longer than rebuilding the structure itself. Meanwhile, Ukraine and its supporters saw this as a major moral victory. For them, this wasn't just an attack on a symbol, it was proof that even the biggest and strongest can be shaken. Social media exploded with reactions, memes, and analysis videos. The attack instantly became one of the most viral events of the conflict. It changed global perception, gave momentum to Ukraine's narrative, and sent a message that Russia's dominance can indeed be challenged. As investigations continued, more and more experts began discussing how this attack was likely a turning point. The global balance shifted. Nations that had remained silent began openly criticizing Russia. Sanctions discussions intensified. Pressure on Moscow grew from all sides. The destruction of one structure created a political ripple effect across multiple continents. And the most ironic part, Russia couldn't do much about it except deny, complain, and attempt retaliation. In the days after the attack, Russia tried to launch counterstrikes to regain the upper hand, but it didn't change the fact that their symbol was gone. No response could erase the powerful images that were already circulating worldwide. The humiliation had already settled in. What was once a proud display of Russian engineering had turned into a global reminder of their vulnerabilities. The world today still remembers this attack as one of the boldest moves in the conflict. It's discussed in military schools, strategy think tanks, and political circles. It has shaped conversations about the future of the war, the stability of Russia's leadership, and the shifting power balance in the region. The attack didn't just hit concrete, it hit the core of Moscow's pride. And as the dust settles, one thing is certain: Russia will never forget this moment. Neither will the world.